Welcome. Today we are focusing on matters education, and we are looking at how the pandemic has affected the education sector in different aspects. We are having Professor Kisulukombo, who is the acting Dean of the School of Education, to canvass some of these issues and to look if as a country we are ready to reopen schools come September. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you so much.
All right, let us start first with how we are adapting to COVID-19 in terms of education, looking at how we are doing virtual learning. From where you sit, looking even at the higher learning institution, which include Kenyatta University, do you think we have been able to continue with education with the virtual learning?
Thank you so much for the invitation, and just want to start by saying that as a university, as Kenyatta University, once we got this particular pandemic, we responded very fast, and we were guided by the Vice Chancellor on how to go about it. We have a school that is in charge of digital learning. Then we had to prepare our lecturers for them to be able to raise up to the challenge. And fortunately, they were doing virtual teaching. Yes, you know for sure that we have open learning, where students are all over and they are taught. So basically, it was just an extension of what we have been doing, except that the numbers just went up.
All right.
Yeah.
Perhaps, given that, school closed abruptly, it was not expected, so we did not have some sort of structure lined up. Perhaps, what are some of the challenges that you encountered even with this virtual learning? Because we understand that not all the students are from the same sort of caliber. We have people from different cross of lives. Perhaps, what are some of the challenges that you faced with embracing virtual learning?
Yeah, the first one was culture shock, because some students, especially those ones who come from remote areas where network is not there, electricity is not there, infrastructure is not there, they were not able to be able to catch up. But by and by, they have managed to do it. So the first challenge is, it was just like a culture shock. Yeah. The first challenge was to be able to adjust themselves so that they can be able to now change from, because they were used to face-to-face, yeah. And now they have been, with the new normal, they are now told to learn on their own, and also to Zoom and then contact their lecturers online. Right. So for a person who has not been used to that particular system, the first challenge is not really to know how to react, but quite a number of them, once they were taught, they have adjusted to the new normal. Yeah. So, but the first challenge is also the other one of especially in the rural areas, yeah. The problem of internet, it keeps on fluctuating from time to time, and also the cost of internet. And this is something that they had not even thought about. I can say that is also a serious challenge.
All right. But now, focusing away from the higher learning institution like Kenyatta University, we go to primary schools and secondary school. Professor Kilisu, you have seen what has been happening in the education sector, and by that I mean that you can tell whether virtual learning in secondary and primary education has really been adapted properly. Do you think where we are as a nation, that has been adapted properly, virtual learning in secondary and primary schools?
That is a tricky question, in that I would say partly, especially the schools in urban centers. They have managed to catch up very fast, and not all the schools even in urban centers. The schools that are patronized by the parents from well-to-do, they have managed to catch up, and they are really doing it so well. Yeah. But when you go to the slums, the priority is not even education, but how to survive given the circumstances. And then when you go to the rural areas, there are some schools in the rural areas, together with the parents in the rural areas, who are also struggling to survive. And when you tell them to pay some money for them to be able to access education through virtual learning, it becomes also a serious challenge. So I would really want to say that primary and secondary, partly, it has succeeded only for those parents who are able, who have managed to adjust accordingly. But there are quite a number of parents have not been able. And you have heard from time to time that they are saying, especially those ones who are not able, they are saying the best for them to do is to be able to check on their stomachs. Survival first is not education. And but this creates a class of haves and haves not. Those ones who are able to access and those ones who are not able to access. And that is the reality. And I want to say that I'm happy with the new decision by the CS. He said that exam will not be taken. It will be postponed to next year around April or somewhere there. So that at least these children from poor families, they can also be able to catch up. Because he realized that if now immediately we open, then they say now exam is taken, that one will disadvantage the students from those poor parents.
All right. Now let us now shift from virtual learning to the issue of schools reopening. Of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta has called upon the CS for Education, Professor Judge Magoha, to look into how schools will be reopened. Professor Judge Magoha has, of course, intimated that schools might be reopened in September. But there has been the issue of the school calendar, because now we happen to see a class is lagging behind, the Form 4 and the Class 8. How possible is it to look into the school calendar to ensure that it is seamless without having a backlog of a class, so to speak?
Backlog, I think that one we can't avoid it, given that already we have lost some months, and given also what we had, that the schools will open in September, hopefully. And then once they open, the exam will be taken next year. So that backlog, whether we like it or not, it will still be there. The question is, even once we open, how shall we manage? Because it's what they are calling, we are calling now the new normal. Is the first one is to be able to check on how the schools are prepared even. Because you have heard of countries that opened schools and they started now closing them. And we don't want to go that direction. The question is, how do we, or how prepared are we for these particular students, whether they are in primary, secondary, or at the university? And what we have heard is that I think my concern is on how to maintain the social distance, even in class, so that at least we don't put these students together or these pupils together, and then after a short while we start now saying we start regretting whether the backlog is there or not. The key thing, because this is a population and the nation depends on this particular population. Once we mess, then we'll mess the whole nation. And my concern is on how the universities, the primary schools and secondary school will adjust. Because we are talking about students who will now be interacting with one another at close quarters. Because you can imagine in a primary school and you tell students now, keep your distance. We don't want you to be so close to one another. They don't really understand what you are talking about. But you are telling them now social distance. Do they really know what it is? And I'm just saying that probably as we do it, and I know for sure CS must be addressing this particular issue, as we think about the backlog, is on how these numbers, if it is possible, they can, even if it means double intake or whichever, so that at least we have some students who can be coming in the morning from 8 up to around noon, and then another team that comes after, so that at least we don't, because there are some schools, especially in Mwiki, you have heard of a school there, it has very many pupils. So you would imagine, or you can imagine that if all those pupils are told now come and you start, as much as we talk about the backlog, the key thing is their health first. So I'm saying the backlog probably it can be worked out. I don't know whether we can avoid that one. Definitely it will be there. And I remember even when we had the old system and the 844, we had also a backlog and it was worked out. But my concern is, as we do it, are we taking care of the health of these young ones?
Young
Because
ones,
that
yeah.
is where the future is.
Yeah, that's the
Because we
dream.
can still push it and say now, for sure, because we don't want a backlog. Let us get it. But then the consequences may be so serious.
All right.
The backlog, I'm not privy to what the minister is doing with his team, but I think they are working out something. But that backlog may take time for it to be sorted out. It will still be there. But my take on it is that once we do it, let us be so sure that we shall not close again the schools like the other countries that have gone there.
Yeah, perhaps some who have intimated that we should forego this education year so that schools can improve on their infrastructure. Because even as we look at schools here in Nairobi, we have schools in the rural area in Turkana. As the media, we have highlighted cases of children who are schooling under a tree, and therefore it will become even more impossible with the measures that have been put in place on social distancing. Do you hold the opinion that we should sit far back for now and build on the infrastructure, then we reopen the schools?
I would not buy that one because it can still be done gradually. And I want to say that those areas you have mentioned, in fact, they are well placed, because if they are in the open, those ones are, in my view, they are better than those ones who are in buildings, crowded places, because there is free movement of air, and the chances of them infecting one another, they are almost like nil. But when you come to urban centers, Nairobi and these other places, that is where you should really be worried. And I would really say that we should not really also postpone opening. We should really do it and then work out like we can be reducing the time these children or these students are allowed to take a break. With that one, if it is worked out properly, then after a short while we can be able to overcome. But the question of just postpone it completely is postponing a problem. It's better to confront it head on.
All right.
Yeah.
We have the students who are doing their KCPE and their KCSE. Of course, they are subjected to some sort of shock. They didn't expect that this year will turn out this way. What can be done in terms of preparation for those particular students? Because some have intimated that the class of 2020 in Form 4 and Class 8 will be adversely affected when it comes to the national exams. What can the government do to mitigate such kind of shock and to prepare them in advance, given that right now we are not even sure if they are continuing with their studies at home?
Really, I don't buy the idea of the government first, because this is something that is in the public domain. The government, let the government come towards the end, in my view, and my considered view for that matter, should be the parents. What are they doing? Or what should they do to make sure that their children know about this? And because it's like we are shifting goals. We are now saying the government should come in and do 1, 2, 3. But we are not asking ourselves, given this scenario, what is it that we are supposed to do? If it is a parent, if it is an elder, if it is a church, if it is whoever now, before we go to the government, because I'm seeing the government at the end there, we should be saying that if it is possible, let us prepare these children. Let us counsel them. Let us make them see where we are coming from and probably how we intend to sort out the problem. With that one, the government will have it easy. But the moment we push it to government, the government should do this, the government should do the other one. And I've even seen it being done by quite a number of people. They say now government should give us food. Surely, when you look at the economy and we are really struggling and you are saying now give us food, can the government do it? And the same kind of argument, I'm trying to extend it to now your question of saying now the government should come in and then try to sort out this problem. What I want to say is that people should complement what the government has done. People should be able now to pull resources together, talk to the children, talk to whoever now, so that at least they can be able to understand. Look at the other aspect that I would really want to talk about is that, like, crowded classes. Because we should not even go to the government. We're asking ourselves, what can we do to make sure that the children, where they are not they don't go to crowded classes. Yeah. Probably this is where we have to pull resources together as a community. Right. Then the government can come in just if it is to employ teachers. But ourselves, what can we do? And with this one, we shall not be saying the government should do this or should do the other. We are saying ourselves, we have done 1, 2, 3. As a result of that one, we are inviting now the government. With that one, we shall be able to make progress. And the question of saying what the government should do, in my view, we should be asking ourselves, before we invite the government, ourselves. What, in fact, I know, although the question is also relevant, is that quite a number of people, given our status, our state of mind, and also where we have come from, quite a number of people expect too much from the government. But I wish we can be able to change our mindset and say now, given this one, it is not affecting one country alone. It's the whole nation, it's the whole world. So ours is to be able to say yes, given what we are now going through. What is it that we can do? And with that one, we'll be able to move faster. And we can be able to make an impact. Than now saying, let the government do 1, 2, 3, and then with that one, we shall be able to see us moving to the next level. All
right. Before we talk about anything else, there has been the issue of CBC, the curriculum. Looking at it, it was more interactive, like sitting down with the kid, doing some sort of art, something of that sort. But now this new normal will make it somewhat, not to say impossible, but somewhat hard to implement. Do you think there should be some mitigation put in place to ensure that CBC continues with the agenda that it sought to implement? Because it is a good system of learning, but the way of putting out that particular education to kids is what might be a challenge.
I don't think so. You know, CBC probably, in my view, people should understand what it is that this CBC is all about. Because it's a question of now shifting the focus from the teacher to the pupil. You allow a child to discover. You give that particular child some ideas, and you tell the child, now, with this particular idea, can you be able to come up with something that can be useful? And with that one, if it's like whatever it is, because it will depend on the subject that these students will be exposed to. So the key thing is of a lecturer, or not a lecturer, no, a teacher is to be able to expose the students to the ideas. And then it will be now upon the students and upon peoples now to be able to say, now with this one, then we can be able to do 1, 2, 3. And what I want to say is that the new CBC has certain competencies, certain expectation. And the teachers being trained, they will also be able to see these expectations. How can we now make these expectations achievable? How can they be achieved? And it is now for them to be able to realign their teaching, to be able to realign the interaction for it to be realized at the end. So it's a question of looking at CBC and what is it that they want to learn, and the teachers will be able now to repackage their knowledge, their skills, and the others, so that at least they can, at the end of it all, they can be able to achieve what they want to achieve. And really, because it's hands-on, but still before hands-on, a teacher has to come in to be able to expose the students, to be able to take the students through the expectation, and then from there the teacher sits back and then sees what is done. And in fact, even when I look at it against now the new normal, I think this is the best way of doing it, because the teacher will not be with the students all the time. The teacher will be able to take them through part of the lesson. The time will be taken by the teacher to be able to take them through that. This is the expectation, and then allows the students now to be able to maneuver, to be able now to think through, to be able now to discover. Yeah, so I think it is even this new normal will help them even to think creatively.
All right, talking about a new normal, Let us now move to the varsities, which are the higher learning institution. Looking at how possible it is to ensure that we adhere to the COVID-19 measures in the higher learning institution. Here in Kenyatta University, we are having many schools in terms of the School of Education. We have the School of Humanities. There are so many schools. And looking at the lecture halls, normally a lecture hall will have so many students, especially if it's a common unit, and we will have so many students. But now, if we're deciding to reopen, what now should varsities do to ensure that the aspect of social distancing is adhered to? What are the measures that should be put in place? Because even as we are talking about us ensuring, saying that it is easier to open universities, we still have a challenge. And not only in terms of common unit, we have the scientists, the sciences, who uses the labs, how effective will it be, or how seamless will, of course, us ensure that we're able to adhere to the directives.
I think that is also a very good question. And when you go to sciences, let me start from there. You can break them into groups. And then if there are experiments to be done, then you can create as many groups as possible. Then you can allocate them time. You say this group, you'll be able to perform your experiment at this particular time, this particular day. That can be done. But a big challenge is when it comes to big classes like what we have in the School of Education. We have big classes. Once now we are given a go-ahead to start, then we will be able to meet and then also split the groups.
Right.
Yeah, because we can't, and it's suicidal also to put all of them together. We'll also split them, and I've met with my chairpersons, and they are willing to do that. So it's not a big thing.
Right.
And what is there is that we may require to spread the time that we have, and definitely it will be done. Yeah. In education, we have big numbers, and with the numbers and the lecturers, what we discussed it, and we said once now we are allowed to come back, then we'll be able to look at the numbers and then how we can now split these numbers into smaller, manageable groups, and then they are taken through.
All right.
Yeah.
Will it in any way affect the time of current, for example, of doing a unit? Because now we are splitting classes, and what we used to do within a day, now we might happen to do it within 2 days or 3 days. Will it in any way affect the time of covering a unit, so to speak?
I don't think so. Because you can imagine from 8 up to around 7 in the evening, if you take that particular time and then you split it, even if into 10 groups, yeah, that can be done, and you will find that you have not lost anything, except that now you have different groups, and these different groups, they are now taught, even if it's one lecturer, two lecturers, and the others. And in the School of Education, we have lecturers who specialize in certain areas. So when we split, it's not one lecturer. We say now we have now 10 groups, and we have about 5 lecturers. We say now, given the new normal, what is there is that you will have to take this number of students. In one day, you will have to teach about 3 classes. And then with that one, we will be able to see how it will go. But definitely that one, I'm not seeing it as a challenge. Probably the challenge may be in terms of rooms. Yeah, but getting lecturers is not a problem.
All right.
Yeah.
So what can you say will be your way forward in terms of us preparing to reopen schools, not only in universities, but also in primary school and secondary school, because many parents are quite not sure what will happen, what is ahead. That has been the scare. And because we have this, education is said to be a tool, and so we need to focus on how we can be able to ensure that we are on the right path. So what can be your way forward as you make your final words?
My way forward, or my parting shot is that we accept first that this is a new animal in the elephant in the house, and we have to adjust if we have to survive. And for us to do it, we should not depend on donors. We should not depend on the government. The government should come at the tail end. Ourselves, we should, as parents and as lecturers, we should be able to say, to come up with a strategy on how to go about it. And secondly, and you have seen it, the new normal is that we look at the positive part of this COVID-19. The positive is that we now allow students to be meeting on Zoom. We should be having as many Zoom meetings as possible, because this is the new normal, that instead of now meeting in a class face to face, we ask ourselves now, are we really prepared to meet or to hold Zoom meetings, to teach the students online? And you find that is now the direction that has been taken by almost all the countries in the world, that they are saying this face to face, let it be almost a thing of the past. Right. Because you can, with now the virtual learning, you can be able to deal with the students, and not necessarily in Kenya, wherever they are. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the direction that we should take. And we should even congratulate COVID-19, because it has, this is a drastic change it has brought to us, and we should be able to embrace the idea of Zoom meetings, the idea of virtual learning, the idea of meeting students online and things like that. You know, before we were not supervising students online, and before we were not also supervising, really students before they were, we used to have defenses, postgraduate defenses, and we used to have them face to face, but now they are done on Zoom, and we are so excited, and we are saying, I wish, and quite a number of deans who have done it, they are saying like me, that I wish we started even earlier or before. Right. Yeah. So COVID has negative things, but I'm telling you, this one of opening new horizons is a new one. And the parting shot is that we should look at it, because we have been told by those people who are in the area of health that it is here to stay. Mm. We are not going to part ways with COVID-19 very soon. Us is to be able to adjust and adjust accordingly, so that at least we can be able to embrace. And I like what the president said, that life has to continue. Yeah. And how can it continue if ourselves as lecturers, as teachers, we are not also adjusting accordingly? To adjust, it means that we have to look at now the way it is, what is it that we have to do to make it better? Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Professor Kiliso, of course, for giving us a perspective on what is happening in the education sector and how COVID-19 has affected the education sector so far. That has been Professor Kiliso Kombo, who is the acting dean in the School of Education, of course, saying COVID-19 is an epidemic and is never going away anytime soon, and therefore we should adjust to the new normal and never relent at any one time, because education is power. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned to KUTV.